Hi, Encaptivators. I'm Shannon.
And I'm Gino.
Welcome to this episode of Present with Purpose. So, Gino, question about visual aids.
Sure.
This is something I hear about all the time, and it's a tough one. There's a lot of don'ts for visual aids, and we talk about the do's all the time, but let's talk about what the three biggest don'ts that you would have are for visual aids.
Yeah, it's all having to do with too much. Too much of a good thing is too much. Well, actually, the first one, let me start, is even keeping in mind what you just called it. It's a visual aid. So when you're doing public speaking, it's different than recording a narrated PowerPoint that you're going to upload because there's no live presentation. So the way that you would design that slide deck to play out individually is totally different. When you're the live speaker, it's a visual aid, aiding you in the background, which means that for the majority of the time, all eyes on you as the speaker. And you're only directing attention or calling attention through color or other use of visuals at the appropriate time to the background. Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing, is recognizing it, definition as what is an aid. And then it's too much. So the first one is too many slides. I'm mentoring a younger entrepreneur who's in his early 20s, and he invited me to watch one of his presentations. Mm-hmm. And he was presenting for 75 minutes, and he had over 30 slides. And it was not 30 slides with images, because that could work out fine. It was 30 slides of content, of actual stuff.
Yeah.
He's like forwarding a slide every 60 seconds. It's really distracting.
Yeah.
So too many slides, and then too many words. A lot of people want to cut and paste their presentation and put it on slides. And that's not how you use PowerPoint effectively. So those are the most common ones that I see, just too much.
Yep. Yeah. And
how about for you?
Yeah, I have to agree with that. First of all, too much text, and to reiterate the point that it is a visual aid, and it's not an aid for you, the presenter. It is an aid for your audience.
Good distinction.
The whole point of a visual aid is to enhance the words that are coming out of your mouth, not repeat them. There's nothing worse than someone reading word for word off the slide. And what people don't realize is by putting a bunch of bullet points, they think they're reinforcing what they're saying. No. If you're going to have a handout, as Gino said, have two different decks. Have a deck that you print or email that has the text in it, and have a deck that you actually present with. Because the deck that you present with, when you put words on those slides behind you, they actually distract your audience. Your audience can't read and process what you're saying to them at the same time. And when you put a bunch of words up there, that's exactly what's happening. They're reading and they're not paying attention to what you're saying, and they're missing things. The point of that visual aid is to add some kind of visual imagery that reinforces or adds to what you're saying. So more pictures, better. And too much is also a good point. I see too many slides as well, but I also at times will use extra slides on purpose depending on the type of talk that I'm giving. But if I'm using extra slides, if I'm switching slides every 60 seconds to 90 seconds, which is a lot to be switching, you should have a slide up for about 1.5 minutes to 3 minutes at a time. But if you are switching slides sooner, it needs to be one very big visual that doesn't have a lot going on it. So it should be like a picture of a face, and that's it. Or a picture of a lion, and that's it. Do not have a ton of slides that you're just, because again, people are going to get frustrated. They're trying to read it. They're trying to see what's going on up there. And I'm sure you're familiar with the 6x6 rule.
Oh, yeah.
Which I hate. The 6x6 rule, for those of you who aren't familiar, is 6 bullet points on a slide, no more than 6 words per bullet points. That is still too much text on a slide, in my opinion. That's 36 words that people should be listening to you say, not reading off of your slide. And to back up to when I was saying the visual aid is for your audience, not for you, people use their visual aids as their own personal presenter notes.
Right. No,
that is not what it's there for. And that's why you need to go back to those tips that we shared before, or those presentation tips, which is practice, practice, practice. If you practice, and if you talk about things that you know about, you're not going to need to lean on your slides as your notes. But guess what? tools like Incaptive actually have your notes built in for you so that you can refer to your notes and not put them on the visuals, which kind of brings me around to Incaptive.
Perfect.
We haven't really talked about Incaptive much, but if you watched our very first video in the series, you saw us introduce ourselves and how we met in our master's program for interpersonal communication, and we both teach interpersonal communication. We're both communication and public speaking consultants on top of all this Incaptive stuff. And what we've really tried to do is take all of the research, take all of the data and the science and the, not only the science, but the art behind public speaking, and infuse that in how we have actually designed this software so that it can be your best friend to help you be a more effective public speaker. And one of the things we heard early on was, oh my gosh, I can't even see the slides. They're so little on the cell phone screen. Well, guess what? If you can't read all that stuff, it shouldn't be there.
Right.
That is the whole point. We are forcing you into doing visual aids the right way, which is having an image big enough. And I wrote about this in a blog recently. Even if you're not using Incaptive, you should be doing the cell phone test, I call it, with your presentation slides. Take your presentation slides, email them to yourself, pull them up on your cell phone, and then take your cell phone and hold it this far away and look at it. Not turned sideways where your slide's blown up, but this far away where it's taking up a small amount. If you cannot, within a matter of seconds, read and tell what's on that slide, your audience isn't going to be able to either, even if it's blown up really big on the screen. So you should really give everything that cell phone test and make sure that you don't have too much on the slide. And speaking of Incaptive and forcing people into that, right? We make sure that you can see it on there. That cell phone test is one way we force them into better visual aids. What are some things that you saw that you really liked about Incaptive and helping with better presenting?
I also like how you can jump around on your slides on your phone without having to back out of the presentation in the projector view. To the audience, if you want to project either to their devices, or you can also project traditionally up to a screen as people are used to seeing. Either way, they're seeing one version, the live version, so it always looks really professional. But then you as the presenter on your phone have your version, and you can back out and jump slides. So let's say you're going from slide 2 and you want to jump to slide 10. When PowerPoint, you're doing it on a regular laptop and you're projecting up to the screen, they see you exit, they see you unprofessionally have to scroll through everything. Incaptive allows you to seamlessly go in on the back end on your presenter view and choose an additional slide, and all the audience sees is just going to the next slide. They don't see any of the behind the scenes stuff, and I think that's pretty darn cool.
Yeah. So just to reiterate on visual aids, make sure that it truly is a visual that reinforces and supports what you're trying to say, not a bunch of bullet points, not a bunch of text, and make sure it's large enough that people can see it. Tune in next week for more communication and public speaking tips. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for weekly videos and follow us on social media for more great content.